Enjoy. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. War! Now with recess. Written by Matt the M _. Humans are a race of warriors. Everyone knows that. That's why every self-respecting military hires them as mercenaries to fight their wars, or skirmishes and displays of power, as humans call them. No amount of violence seems to be great enough for humans to deem it a war. It is of no surprise to those who studied human history, at least a little bit. The sheer amount of industry that they used to commit their war efforts just a century or so prior to the discovery is mind-boggling. At first, you would think that the humans would refuse to fight each other, that they would start to feel some sort of camaraderie with one another when introduced to the universe full of civilizations. Opposite seems to be the case. They break themselves up into so many tribes and nations that it is quite simple to find a faction willing to engage with whoever your enemies hired. That leads to a paradoxical situations that most vicious fighting takes place in the sections where humans face each other. Injuries are common in these places. There are even occasional fatalities. I find it scary to think of what it takes to kill a human, since I saw them survive large blaze burns or even a loss of a limb. On the other hand, they are far from savages. They have a strong code of honor. Ferocious as they are in a fight, they are equally gracious in victory, treating their prisoners better than most of their more civilized species. How uncivilized of me. I've been pouring my thoughts into a datapad without introducing myself to the reader. My name is... It is unpronounceable for humans, so they just call me Stephen. I am a strategic advisor to a human contingent facing another human contingent on a lump of dirt my superiors find important enough to fight for. Or at least pay someone to fight for it in their name. What is strategic advisor, I hear you ask? It's basically the regional manager of war. I tell human commanders which planet or moon should be conquered and how much they are going to get paid for it, and they tell me what equipment they need to do it. This conversation goes back and forth until we win or are forced to retreat. All the tactical decisions are left to the commanders. I get to travel a lot to check if their end of the contract has been fulfilled, and my travels made me somewhat versed in human culture. Nothing could prepare me for the surreal display I'm about to describe to you, though. The commander of our mercenaries informed me that there would be a pause in the fighting. For a period of time, the humans will not engage anyone and pull back their bases. I gathered it was some religious ritual that was taking place, and the humans were to honor it. Curious, I accepted the commander's offer to accompany him as he declares the ceasefire. We took an armored vehicle to the front line. This was one of the rare occasions I actually went to an active battlefield. As we crested a small hill, I saw it in front of me, a wide, muddy plain dotted with ruined foliage. Continuous lines of trenches, foxholes, and small forts spanning from horizon to horizon. Sporadic mortar fire was being exchanged, and I could even see the flashes of laser fire. The commander ordered the driver to move out of the protective underbush farther into the open meadow. I was gripped by a sudden sense of panic. We were in clear vision of the enemy. If they knew what valuable personnel sit in this car, we would sure to become their main target. I was hoping the camouflage would be able to hide our presence, hoping until the commander activated a hollow projector. Usually used to project active camouflage, but adjusted to project an image into the sky. I looked up, painfully aware that anyone on the battlefield knows our location. The image was of some religious ritual. A group of human females clad in long white dresses and flowers in their hair stood around a silver object. A white flag with an image of a colorful chain flew above their heads. One of them, holding a stick, ceremonially bowed and brought the stick to the silver item. As the view zoomed in on the action, I realized that the silver item was a concave mirror, and that the stick is a torch that they were to light using their sun. I almost jumped out of my skin when a loud cheer rumbled over the battlefield as the torch was set aflame. The woman straightened, and a man holding a similar unlit torch stepped to her. She lit his torch to more cheering coming from the trenches, and he started running. The view cut to another torch wielder waiting. The first runner arrived. The fire was relayed in a similar fashion, and the second took off. This ritual was repeated over and over. There was always a runner waiting. His torch was lit, and he continued this never-ending journey. Each time, the humans now slowly filing out of the trenches cheered. Each time, the scenery was stranger and stranger. Some of the relays were obviously in space, the fire forming a mesmerizing sphere of patterns in no-gravity environment. Some were underwater. How did humans make fire burn underwater was beyond me. Places were changing, planets were changing, the size and color of the runners were changing, but the theme of the relaying fire remained. It was as if the entire humanity united in this common goal of transferring the fire to every crevice of the universe. Eventually, the spectacle ended. Commander and I returned to the base, overtaking marching units, singing songs. The mood was euphoric, to say the least. In the following days, I made sure to visit the human barracks and learn more about the strange event. They were happy to show me everything about it. They call it the Olympic Games, and it is a universe-spanning sports event their entire species takes part in. An entire species of battle-hardened warriors lays down their arms to see the best at running and jumping, and heavens, are they good at it. I've watched people throw things farther than I could run, and run farther than I could imagine. Swim like they were born in water, and jump like they should never land. And then, 3 weeks later, I watched with them as the fire in a large cauldron was snuffed out. The event ended. As they were returning to the ordinary duties, I realized something. This war of ours, all of them in fact, with its grappling, struggling, laser burns, concussion grenades, and even the occasional unlucky fatality, must just be another sport for them. End of story. Story number 2. Log, written by a glass of whiskey. Great news! Today we found an almost perfect planet. With just some minor terraforming, this world will be pristine. A perfect place for His Eminence holiday getaway. Update. Some minor species seems to live on it. As per protocol, we have offered a relocation of a large number, perfectly viable for repopulating to another system. They did not see, as us, that this was fine and proper. Also, discussion about precisely how they would survive after the relocation came to a halt after the answer of, "You will figure it out," did not go over well. It is a wonder that they've come this far. No tact. Very well, they seem to be wholesale rejected this excellent approach. So, as per protocol, we will proceed to Plan B. Asteroid bombardment, a simple and elegant solution, no waste of ammunition, and total destruction of primitive species. Unfortunately, this will cause a minor setback to the timeline for terraforming the planet. Update. Minor setback. Request reinforcements from backup fleet. We need a precision bombardment to neutralize previously presumed destroyed military installations. Species had prepared for some decades to a nuclear strike, which enabled them to survive the immediate impacts. They had also prepared for retaliatory means on several thousand nukes, surely a sign of a deranged paranoia. When the fleet entered the close orbit and began the terraforming process, These previously unknown nukes were launched, overwhelming in number, and at the close range the defensive maneuvers were not successful. The fleet was almost completely destroyed, save for a few support ships. The terraforming is delayed until backup arrives. However, it should be completed within an acceptable time frame, presuming the backup fleet can be provided. Update. Backup fleet has arrived when precision bombardment has been successful. Several full scans of the planet, as well as the limited landing parties, have been able to confirm no further military assets on land or sea. As an extra safety precaution, we have also poisoned the air. Anything not completely isolated have by now been destroyed. Request permission to move into the backup fleet to begin the terraforming process. There can be no further threat after this. Who in the feck builds ships that can stay hundreds of meters underwater for months, filled to the brim with nuclear rockets? Automatic control engaged. As per protocol, the remnants of the fleet will retreat, and this project is aborted until further notice. Estimations for new fleet incursion in 1,000 years. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed.